BMRL network for tonight. Here we are at the Daytona International Speedway for the Trucks series. Last night it was Xfinity series. It was myself and Chris Mayo, but it's going to be tonight myself and myself Zoe, and we're on our way, just waiting for about a minute, and then we move on. Then we move on to the qualifying session, which would be every driver having 2 laps to themselves to try and post the quickest time. But I think here in this oval specifications, doesn't matter if you're at the first row, front row or the last row, it is very, very close every single time, as they have one pretty much lining up one of the queue of cars on that outside line and some of those on that inside line. As we're just waiting for the final 40 seconds to end, then we move on to the qualifying. And then, of course, 100 laps of racing here at Daytona. It was 115 for last night, but it should be amazing for tonight. And with these trucks and more and drivers all around, should be great battles. We saw a lot of them last night, and it should be even better here tonight. Quite excited. Just 20 seconds to go now. And that is it for practice as it ends. Now it is the checkered flag for practice. Now this shouldn't be, it should be any time as we move on to the qualifying session very, very soon. It'll be very exciting as it is a lot of drivers here tonight for this truck series race. And as the qualifying just begins, the 5 minute of it. Meanwhile, the drivers getting 2 laps each. Whatever you do first, complete your 5 minutes first, or those 2 laps. Meanwhile, we already have a driver out on track, as everybody now leaving one after the other that pit lane. For now, we got car number 9, Ramsey, and some other cars around the circuit. Corey as well, that number 9 out on the circuit, and the others as well. Obviously, the first one thing in the end, and that is number 2, Rob Denton, out as well. Everybody now eager to try and get out, try and get as early as they can, really put in their laps and pretty much be relaxed a little, try and take that time before they move on to the race. But as we have drivers now, one after the other, they're getting out on track quick as they can. As we're yet to see a lap or two completed by one of these drivers. Still waiting on a time though. What is it going to be? It was in about 50s in the Xfinity series. What is it going to be with these trucks? We're about to witness it in a moment's time as we're getting drivers completing their laps, trying to go as quick as they can, as we're watching the car number 19 of Don Ray going on that outside, just staying to that outside line, just trying to go put in a lap pretty much, try and put in a lap and go as quick as they can. As we saw a lot of drivers making progress and gaining a lot of time by staying to that inside line last time around, but we'll see how it goes as we already have our Corey first finisher, 51.3 for him there. But anybody else, we're yet to see if anybody's going to be able to challenge him. Buddy, yet Jeff does so, 51.1. He goes quickest. Others are posting in their laps as well, but Jeff has been the one to challenge him. Anybody to challenge him, though? A lot of drivers completing lap after lap, and does it. It is Jeff Peppers has been challenged by Crosby. They're into the 50s. They're a first driver of the session to do so. 50.918 so far. RVC in the car number 3 do anything more better than those guys at the top? Not yet, though. They're going to just go around the circuit. Meanwhile, Williams William, Tyler and William both go better, and Corey goes even better this time around. He was the first one to do a lap, and this time around he goes even more quicker. He improves, which should be his final lap, as we're just now a little less than 2 minutes. Meanwhile, Kyle Peacock goes quickest, 50.7 for time being, as we're seeing drivers complete their laps. Meanwhile, Chris Cornett, Dustin Hardy, Chris Mayo, Adam Gardiner, Flips, Jamie Preville, and Corey yet to do their laps though. But we're seeing one after the other try and complete their laps with just a minute and a half remaining. Everybody's on it, everybody's pumped, and it should be car 7. Chris Mayo then on the lap to get started and do a lap that's going to put him P15 only so far, with a time of 51.8. Meanwhile, the leaders at the top are still staying at the top. But in between, Kyle Peacock quickest, then obviously Peppers in second place, then Rob Denton in third, then Sean Croft in fourth. He almost won it in that Xfinity series last night. And then comes Don Led Ray there in fifth, and Corey in that sixth place. He was on fastest at one point, but that sees him getting down the order. Meanwhile, everybody now has a lap except for Dustin Hardy, who didn't have too good of a race last time around as well, but we'll see what he does here in this track. It's obviously a bit of a different car, same track, but definitely things different, days different, and we'll see how good he's able to do. Meanwhile, only about 25 seconds now remain in this session as we're watching car number 6 of and there we go. He's just slowing down. Just 10 seconds now remain in this session. Not much before we are on for those 100 laps of Daytona here, which should be very, very exciting. And that gets Mark's checkered flag to the qualifying session. It was Chris Flips, who was car number 6, simply in the final place, would be starting in the last row of the grid, as we're going to get drivers. So it is the rolling starting grid then. It is Kyle at the top alongside Jeff Peppers on that front row. It's going to be the top 2 of your race. Then come Rob Denton and Sean Cross in third and fourth. Just behind them, it would be Don Led Ray and Corey in that 5th and 6th place. Very close. Then comes Austin and Chris Mayo doing a decent job, putting it 8th quickest in this qualifying session. Then came Devin Ramsey and Chris Cornett in 9th and 10th, completing the top 10 of the grid. Meanwhile, William and Tyler Jenkins in that 11th and 12th place. And then it would be Jeff Crosby and Dustin Bloodworth in 13th and 14th. Adam Gardiner and Cameron Welch in 15th, and Cameron Welch in 16th. Then Darby in 17th, and Todd Champ in 18th, only qualifying in 18th, but we'll see if he's able to drive like a champion. Then Jamie Prevost in 19th, and Chris Flips in the 20th, and that completes your grid for the race. Meanwhile, there is more drivers than 20, so it'll be Stephen in 21st, and Dustin Hardy in 22nd place. Christopher Barker in 23rd, and James Tinder in 24th. Trying to go as trying to get the better of a start they can. Obviously, it goes green at the same time for everybody, so we'll see how good everyone's able to do with that rolling start, and that start behind the pace car we're going to see. And we're just we were waiting for these cars to begin, and they are rolling already. We're seeing the pace car at the front. Meanwhile, the field of drivers, some of them we saw put laps in qualifying, and some of those drivers couldn't. We saw all of those. It was 24 of them, and we're going to see who's able to finish and who's not. A lot of incidents. Many of them could happen probably towards in that third and final stage of the race. But we'll see what happens in the first two ones, which of course would be lap 1 to lap 25, the first stage. Then it would be 25 to 60, the second one. We'll see who's able to do better than one or the other driver. There we go, we've got in that information now, and of course the grid for tonight's race as we're having drivers get ready, as just waiting for that green flag. Meanwhile, the pace car truck at the front ahead of everybody, just eagerly now waiting to go green. Just a few more corners. Few more miles and we would be on for the green there, as they're now just making their way. And it goes green. The pace car is in, and we're going to have a start here at Daytona in the Truck Series. And it begins. Your leader currently leads it pretty nicely on that inside line, trying to defend. The driver's on the outside, keeping it smooth as well. Meanwhile, some drivers looking to be at the and just coming out of that pit road at this point in time, as they let the leaders get past. They're just joining into the session. It'll be very hard for them to try and make their way, keep their way into the session. Meanwhile, the 69 around the outside could try and have a go at him. Meanwhile, number 1 keeps it in number 1 so far. He leads it, keeps it so far to himself as they get on that straight to 1 and 2 and 19 are 1, 2 and 3 so far on that inside line. Meanwhile, the outside, it is going to be 69, 83 and number 9 cars. It was a nice little scrap. Meanwhile, there's a few drivers falling behind. Meanwhile, the 69s on that outside line falling a little bit away as well, fading away a little bit from the rest of the field. But I'm sure it won't be too long before we see moves making, before we see drivers switching up positions and making all their here for the progress that they want to be making, and obviously the performance that they are there to do. Meanwhile, 2 almost there thought for a 3 wide try and go into that middle on that outside. Meanwhile, the 69 falling away a little bit on that outside, so the inside line having a little bit of advantage, which obviously it does so, which we saw last night as well. As we're moving along, and there we go. Still going wrong. That'll be still interesting, still going nicely though with these cars. No moves, no overtakes yet, but we'll see how it's going to be going on. Still keeping it smooth, everybody around, especially the leader has been able to hang it around there. Meanwhile, we're just seeing the rear bumper of the car 19 there, just moving. Look how much they're moving left or right, trying to go and try and find the best opportunity to overtake. Meanwhile, car number 2 there it should be in second place, trying to move to that outside line, trying to overtake and have a go at number 1 and your race leader Kyle Peacock. Rob there trying to do all he can, try and maybe do something unorthodox, but not yet so far. Meanwhile, 19th, third on that outside, is 5th in this field, but we'll see. What is it gonna be? Anybody who's gonna be the bravest of them all to try and make a move, to try and give us the action that we have been looking for. Maybe someone at the back of the field that we haven't seen at the front. Could we see some moves being made here? So far they've been very calm. Of course, many laps, as much as 100 laps. So it's very early so far in this race to see anybody make moves, to see anybody really try something that we have been waiting for, or maybe do something unexpected in this race so far. But we are yet to see that anybody. You see drivers moving there, left and right, one or the other side. They're obviously they're finding and then trying to go for that better opportunity they could, but not yet. They haven't been able to do that. Meanwhile, 2 and now almost number 19 to get ahead of that 69 on that outside as well. But on that straight, they're staying very nicely and very closely there. But meanwhile, as they're going into those bankings and those hilly areas, the hill it is, that little hill, it obviously favoring that inside line, which is definitely a shorter way to go forward and move up in this race. Still same order. 83 very close for a moment, thought to go even on the outside of the 69, which is on the outside of that inside line, of course. For a moment he thought, for he's almost on that bumper, and now bumper close. Between those two, there could be a chance, and I think 83 is now impatiently waiting to try and make a move. Meanwhile, 9 and 21 are not far away from each other as well. We could be seeing some action here, not far away from that. Only on lap 5 out of 100. Still could be some moves being made here. We're eagerly waiting for anything to be done in this race so far. It's been very smooth for all those drivers. The bumper has been very close between 83 and 69, that is. The back of the field still going nicely, smooth as well. Not much that we have been seeing in this race so far. Everybody maintaining their lines and their positions so far since the start, the rolling start, of course. So not many passing opportunities, unless they try and go 3 wide, which I think hasn't been happening yet, which of course they don't want to be risking it, because 3 wide here is very, very risky. You could end up yourself in the wall or put anybody ahead or behind you in the wall as well. But we'll see who's going to be coming out on top. Yet at the moment everybody's been patient, everybody has been keeping their cool and calm though in this race. But for how long? Any time that we're going to see anybody making moves. Meanwhile, 4 on the inside of the car, on the outside of them, they're going wheel to wheel, still close though, very close. The car of Chris Mayo, car number 7 on the inside as well, just keeping it there, try and keep up with that car with that field on that outside though. And still, I mean, that on the inside line, number 1 still leading 69, not having their way, not finding their way through. Meanwhile, that green car it is. They're going to try and make, they almost went 3 wide. They're trying to get themselves in the middle. Car 55 that was. They almost thought for a moment there to try and move themselves up from outside to that inside line. Making some movements in that field that we have been waiting for, and that could have just happened there. I think for a moment we thought that there was going to be some chaotic movements going on. Still interesting to see though. Fastest lap so far, 46.6, which is even quicker than I think what we saw in qualifying there. So it's very interesting to see. Meanwhile, the inside line still seems to be the dominant one, the better one there. Meanwhile, 69 now almost right behind the car 19 now. Are we going to see the car 1 and 2, both Kyle Peacock and Rob there doing their best? Anytime we're going to see Rob trying to move to that outside line, but I think one time or the other. Meanwhile, 69 now on that outside, could be having a chance at the first position of the race. Which are we going to see anything switching now? Which we indeed are seeing at this moment. Meanwhile, 69 on that outside is the quickest and ahead of that outside line inside line for a moment. We thought we saw that, and again it's equal. Again it's very, very close. Finally, that moment that we were waiting for, the chance that was going to be getting up for those on that outside line, is now just seeming to be there, and it's taking life. Of course, all these drivers, they have to obviously manage not tires and fuel as well. If you're going full throttle, you might end up emptying your fuel tank, which is obviously going to be very precious for the starting first stage of the race. Meanwhile, all of them doing what they are there to do, still trying to be impatient there. Chris now moves up from outside to the inside line there. Yellow cut truck we saw, and that was no moves though, just changing his line. Meanwhile, 83, I think he's been impatient. He's been waiting for a move to pass, an opportunity too fast. Meanwhile, 69 on that outside, he's going to go for it, and he's indeed going for it so far. He's keeping it there. He's going to try and keep it ahead of him. Not so far though, they're still very close. They're closely moving across and moving ahead. We're on lap 10 of 100. Already be seeing cars coming into the pits and making their pit stops now. Into the pit lane they come, the first few ones. Of course, they have to be making a pit stop in this first 25 lap stage of this 100 lap 3 stages race here at Daytona, and it's going to be interesting. We've seen a first few drivers, a few drivers pitting in. When is it going to be the time we see the drivers at the top fighting, try and pit, and maybe find their moment to pit and think, when is it going to be the best opportunity and better opportunity to try and pit in this race for them to lose as much as they try and not lose as much time as they would not like to. So of course, sometimes in the pits it goes wrong for all these drivers, and sometimes it goes nice and better than what you've been expecting, or it doesn't always go in racing, or any kind of racing it doesn't always go your way. But we're seeing these drivers, meanwhile 69 on that outside, still doing a very good job, still hanging around, not hanging around, and I think they're still very much doing back and forth, or one time one or the other. They move back and forth, they move, changing positions. Meanwhile, the outside line is far, far away, and they've done it. So 69 now moves to that inside line for a moment. He tried and move there, he tried and defend, but he couldn't quite do it. He almost had to forcefully move to that outside line back, though, and he does it. He has to do so. Meanwhile, we're going to see drivers, some of them getting into the pits and some of them coming out as well. Very closely, the battle now almost becoming from one field, with two lines of the inside and the outside becoming now one. The whole field bunching up together. We're seeing some brave moves. The brave drivers still staying to those outside lines. Of course, it is in the best in terms of benefits and times gaining. But when it gives you the moves, the opportunity, you could be moving up forward, as we're seeing now. Still very, very close. 69 and 83, and 69 and 9 indeed, battling it out. He's lost few positions there. We did not realize he's lost quite a few positions, trying to change the field, of course, trying to change, go from outside to the inside, not finding any success on that outside line. Would have to move to the inside, of course, and trying to pit as well. Meanwhile, they have to pit. And the 69s and some drivers right behind coming into the pits as well. They're going to try and change their tires, maybe refuel if they need to do as well. So it's going to be the field on the inside, still looking the strong one, the better one so far, and they've kept it in the lead, and I think it seems to be very nicely done for those drivers. Now, nobody's going to go into the pits, of course, for the lead, as we try and we see other packs of the drivers going into the pits and doing their things into the pits that they're supposed to do, but the leaders are not yet doing so. We're not seeing the top three get into the pit road yet. We're not seeing anybody come in. We could see maybe next time around they make their way through that part of the track. We could see them coming in, but not yet, though. We're still waiting and waiting to see who's going to be the first one of the top three to move that, to cause that button, to that pit button, which sometimes could go nice or good or wrong in any of the driver's favor. We'll see what happens there. Still nobody coming in. They're doing it nice, and in the top three in their own. Meanwhile, car number 4 staying in 4th position as well. He's up that time trying to pit, having everybody ahead pitted. It's a good opportunity for all those behind to try and go for it as well. Meanwhile, we're going to see these three coming out of the pit. Still going strong, still going as they want to be. They're not thinking doing anything different, though, so far in this race. They're just trying to take it as cool as they can. 16 laps, which becomes 17 now, have been done, which including this one. It'll be now on lap 17 out of 100. Still far away from that end of the race, and I think that is the final stage is going to be the exciting one, which is when we're going to see positions and drivers moving there up and down the grid. Meanwhile, we saw a little bit of a move on that outside line for a little bit, which is still is the top two are still running bumper to bumper each other so far. Meanwhile, Kyle and Rob there doing their best and trying to do what they can so far. Still keeping it smooth, still so far keeping it nice, and I think we'll see how is it going to be. Anyone on the outside? There could be a chance. The number 19 is being challenged there from the cars on the outside. Could there be a chance for them to try and make a move? Not so far though. Still staying to that outside, but it is very close now. 33-24 are very close to the 19 car now. It'll be very interesting to see who gets to the top, who comes at the front first, but we'll see. Is it going to be now? It's very close once again. The top 3, 1, 2 and car 19 are yet to pit. Of course, others behind would be willing to pit anytime soon as well, but those who have pitted would be benefiting in a little bit moment's time. But I think they could be going at the end of this stage, which should be ending at lap 25. Which could be their chance, which is of course the caution, and they relax a little, the pressure goes down, the nerves relax out of the adrenaline and racing for a little bit, which moves them get a bit of a better feeling. Meanwhile, the 75 staying there very close as well. Meanwhile, the inside liners almost just like the carbon copy of last night, where we saw the top 3 drivers just staying there, just keeping their inside line and not having to pretty much move or do anything unorthodox. In the end, of course, the results were very different, which how it begun, having many incidents last night, but this is different. This has to provide some different as well. Meanwhile, 19 having to scrape with 33 there on the outside. One of the only drivers challenging up closer to those leaders. It's pretty exciting to see who's going to get it out on top. Meanwhile, 19 just going very deep onto that inside line, trying to keep it there, of course, away from that yellow line, but still now nicely done, I think. 33 still thinking that outside is going to give him something. It could be the bravest and a better decision, but now everybody becomes the outside and becomes just one line. Meanwhile, we see some of them come into the pit road this time, and we're going to see who is it going to be, or is it going to be anybody from that top 4, 5 or 6 cars. Meanwhile, we've seen some drivers, and there we go, some of them come in, but the top drivers still staying out. Lap 21 out of 100, so we're not far away from the end of this stage so far. So we're going to see who is it going to be coming and making their way at the top of the field at the end of this stage, which of course is going to be many points for these drivers at the end of one stage, which I think goes one less as we passed the stages, but it should be interesting. And of course, those points are valuable in terms of the championship. And we're going to see drivers coming in, and almost this was something interesting there from these drivers. And car number 2 there goes sliding around, almost going to go into 19 there. That was really close, maybe unstabling his car coming into the pit, so maybe try and run somebody else with a bluff there for a moment, he thought. And I think at the moment, number 1 has been able to get into their pit box. Very nicely done. Anybody not behind, we're going to see the other 2 were very close, especially number 2 there, which was going to be Rob. It was very close for him there, having a look at almost going into the front bumper of that 19. Meanwhile, we're going to see this battle, all of the field that pitted earlier, that pitted than anybody else before. We're going to see all those guys piling up now, very together, still staying in one line for a moment. Thinking for it, 69 leading that line, and pack 83 staying right behind 69 for the entirety of this race. Could we see something unorthodox from him? Can we see something we haven't seen this race so far from the 83 there? Try and give the challenge to the 69s, and of course Chris Mayo is not far behind from the car ahead as well. Of course, everybody bunched up together, very close. It's only a matter of time who's going to go for those overtakes. Meanwhile, those final few cars that we're seeing, those cars going together almost for a moment. You're going to see it's very close between Chris and car number 7 and 15 on the outside. 6 there staying close as well. We'll see how is it going to be, but we'll get things around. What is it going to be? There's going to be very close, though. On the outside now has a better chance and have indeed gotten ahead and gotten up ahead of everybody on that outside. It seems to be the dominant line and the better that has the bit of more traction and some better speed than anybody around. Meanwhile, 6 is going to fall. 69 is going to be having to concede those few places as they're almost equal, but ahead on car 15, number 6, and 00 on that. Meanwhile, 6 goes on that inside now, and so does 0 on the outplaying 15 there, and they're going to go on the inside of the inside line, and they're going to get ahead of those that 15 car there, which is interesting to see. Meanwhile, we see another car move to the outside there. For a moment, 00 thought to try and defend, to try and move to that outside to defend his position, but I think he knows staying to that inside line could be nice. And stage is up, and that is going to be it for the first stage of this race, which is going to be 25 laps, and it's done. We might see drivers coming into the pits once again. We'll see who's going to come in and who's not. But that is going to be it for the first part of this race. And there we go. The first stage was done and dusted. We saw drivers once again come into the pits and do their jobs. The remaining, maybe some of them didn't pit earlier, would have to be doing it now. And I think now they're ready and set go for the second stage, which should be 25 to 60 to lap 60. But we had some exciting, action-packed racing, but I'm sure the second stage we move through, which should be providing even more and better opportunities for everybody racing around as the pace car comes in and it goes green once again here at Daytona. It is going to be very nicely indeed, and it goes green on lap 28 once again as they get past that finish line, and it's going to be number 3 leading this race, leading this so far, trying to defend, trying to keep it away for both the drivers away, trying to defend the inside and the outside line at that same time. Meanwhile, 69 on that inside, still staying there, trying to stay there, and I think he's losing a little bit of time. Maybe he'd be thinking for a time that when he's on the outside, he's losing a few of those, and when he's on the inside, he's losing a bit as well. Meanwhile, it's going to be the outsiders trying to gain, and they are gaining indeed, 9 and 15, and so it's 83 almost. He has an opportunity to move to that inside very quickly. He doesn't do so, but the outside have done their job. Meanwhile, they move very quickly to that inside. I think they have done a great job, and that is pretty much what the outside line is for. There is going to be not many opportunities, could be one or two opportunities. You take those, and that is going to be your job done for you. Meanwhile, they've done it so far as it sees these guys still. Meanwhile, Devon Ramsey leading Austin and 15 in second, and right behind them in third place would be the 83 car. Very close as well. Meanwhile, one or the other driver, though, it isn't a bad news, but I think it could have ended one or the other driver's way had they made contact. That was very close, and we saw, and a lot of the times we have seen at Daytona that a little bit of a tap, especially in these cars, it could end up putting you in that wall on the outside, or things could go very differently. Meanwhile, the drivers on that inside doing it very, very nicely. The outsiders are not really having their race much nicely. Meanwhile, some of them move, and it is going to be one of them moving from the inside to the outside, and it was 69 after scraping and staying to that inside line, trying to make any progress they could. He's not going to be doing that. And 83 for one more time after moving with the top two onto that inside from the outside, switching up very quickly, but he moves back to the outside. Meanwhile, it's going to be 3 wide, and it's going to be these 3, and it is going to be 69 now, challenging everybody around, and he's done it. He takes the lead of this race, and he does it from a long way back. He sent it 3 wide, and took the lead of it, and now it's going to see him stay in first position and on lead that inside line back. Meanwhile, we're going to see one more move, and making it almost 3 wide once again, but getting that lead to themselves of the outside line for number 9. It's going to be very close as well. That was some thinking from number 1 there, and I think they've done a fantastic job. And that was in fact number 1. That wasn't 69, my bad. And we're having these drivers really do that. They're kind of running similar paint jobs, so it gets a bit tricky to try and judge those numbers there. But we'll see what is even panning out. Meanwhile, the outside still having their time, number 9 and 83, very, very close between those two as well. They're still trying to scrape in and stay to that outside. Some of those on the inside are challenging as well. Still, these nice pack of drivers. Meanwhile, 9 on the outside of the better chance. He's just a front wheel ahead of those cars on the inside, but it's going to be very close. Still not though. 87, just staying in 15, just moving to that left. Maybe for a moment thought could be a chance and a moment for him, but haven't been one so far. Ooh, this is very close once again. 9 there, just staying, and there could be a chance. It could be very soon a chance we could see maybe making moves. Anybody making moves all time around. Of course, the second stage now.
taking us closer and closer to the end of this race. We're already on lap 34 now, having restarted on 28. Still staying nice though between everybody at the top, everybody at that front of the field, making their best, trying to get the best they can out of this time so far. Still staying, trying to stay patient though, not making any risky moves. We saw number 1 do it. I think they run in there, number Kyle. He was leading at the start, and there is an incident in the back of the field. That was somebody tapping each other at the back of the field, and that is going to be the 33 car moving around and going into the wall there. It was many cars involved, and this is going to be a yellow, and it's going to be another pace car. If we could see what happened there, we were all smoothly going. Meanwhile, one of the cars tap each other, and it was then the other number 9, I think, going into the wall, and that was causing all the actions. 33 once again going all over the grass there, which is going to see him getting into the wall, all spinning around. The incident that we were talking about has just happened, and this is what happens when you try and do something that wasn't needed at this time of the race. And now we're going to see, then did the other drivers hit that 33 car as well, as that is some interesting things now. Meanwhile, it is going to be a caution now. Once again, yellow flags, and it'll be the pace car out. The pace truck one more time after an incident. We'll see if those involved in the incident are able to head into the pits, repair the damage, and get back out on track. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to do that or not. And I think it would be, and I think the fastest lap last time around happened on lap 16, which was 46.298, and hasn't happened ever since so far. Of course, all those drivers are very close to each other, so not many opportunities. And there you go, as anybody finds their opportunities behind the safety car, behind that pace car, trying to pit in as quick as they can, and of course trying to lose as less time as they can to the rest of the field. They're going to head into to the pits, of course, trying get themselves cleared up, maybe get a free pit stop, which it happens under the yellows, and not have to pit any time for within this second stage. We'll see how it goes though. Still only on lap 34. It happened very early, even 10 laps or less. 10 laps didn't even pass that restart, and it happened once again, as you're going to see now. Cars get out on that track one more time. Everybody, those pitted, of course, those who did not wanted to have track position, wanted to have the feel of maybe leading the pack with themselves ahead of everybody, but we'll see how this is going to be panning out. Meanwhile, we're going to see some of those lapped cars making their way past that pace car, and all those who are not would be just doing what they have to do so far under the yellows, and waiting to go green anytime soon now. Still staying within it, of course, it would be about the lap 60, which would cause the second stage. And I mean, what are these drivers going to be thinking at this point, to be honest, to see going around a caution, and maybe those who were involved could try and go back out on track, but now they would be thinking that they try and not do it once again, and also anybody around them would be a little bit cautious as well. They would be driving in a little bit of that pressure and that nerve-wracking situation of like, sure, something around us happened, but let's try and not make ourselves be one of them, because it could, one incident or one mistake of maybe yourself or somebody around you could really end yours or their race, and you could be done for the remainder of the race, and would just have to wait and watch this outside of the car. Then, of course, nobody's wanting to do that so far, so it's interestingly still going yellow. The laps are, of course, paused, which is going to be not doing much to it. So it pauses the laps. Any laps it does behind the pace cars are not going to be counting, which, of course, it hasn't done so since it went yellow. And as soon as it goes green, it would be the way to go. And there you go, it's going green, ready to roll one more time. It goes green after a restart of that the second stage. It was interesting to see. We're going to see it one more time. Meanwhile, we're going to see moves being made already, as some drivers already straight away coming into the pits. And there is an incident, and one more time, as soon as it went green, it goes yellow once again. We're seeing 21s, 24s, and many others involved in the incident. It happens one more time. As soon as it went green, it was one of the cars tapping three, and then of course one tapping the other. It's almost like a domino when it knocks one of the other out, and it just keeps moving and making it worse, the situation. So we're going to see and have a close-up of the situation here. That was one of those cars from behind tapping up number 3, and then of course it just went bad for everybody trying to stay out of the chaos, stay out of any chaotic situation, and that has made it even worse, as we could only go from lap 33 to lap 37 to 38 before there was any cautious situation. Almost, look there, many cars there on the field being made, and this is a one more look at this incident. Some of the drivers, it looks like they didn't even make any contact, putting themselves into the wall, maybe just trying to stay away from any caution. I think there'll be many damaged cars. It's almost the whole field really being involved in this situation, and we're going to see a cockpit view to try and see anything we could see, as we saw some of them coming into the pit straight away. Meanwhile, one of the problems happened ahead. Meanwhile, we see the cockpit view of some of those drivers. Of course, look how cautious they're trying to stay, how calm they're trying to stay, and trying to stay away from any of those chaotic situations. We're going to see this happening earlier, and in fact happen ahead of them. Meanwhile, this is interesting. And this could be, are we going to see any driver involved in this incident really have a look at that? Meanwhile, this is a very good bad close look of it. Meanwhile, they went into it. This is very close there. This was very lucky escape for our onboard cockpit viewer driver. Ooh, this was very close. Some of them very lucky to pan out of this. Meanwhile, some of them, of course, without even on their own mistake, they just tapped away or tapped from somebody else. And that is going to see the number 1 spinning around after leading for a little bit, showing everybody they are the for number 1 of this race so far. And that was number 1 into them. They're having many spins all around the circuit. And there we go. We're ready to go once again. Try and go green, of course, waiting for this pace car to go back into the pit lane once again and give us the action that we've been waiting for. It moves ourselves from 38 to lap 41 so far. And interestingly, it's still going straight up, still going up, though, the pace car, but I think it'll be interesting to see when does it go into the pits now, and I think it should be anytime soon when we see these drivers going at it once again and rolling the start one more time to get it going green and give us the action that we have seen this all race long so far, and go at it one more time. I think this second stage has had 2 cautions already, which were because of incidents, and we're going to see hopefully some smooth racing, but we're going to see how it goes when it goes green here around. And it's in. The pace car is in. It's going to be rolling green as they get to that finish start line. It's going to be very close between 91 and all those behind as well. We'll see how it goes. Meanwhile, the inside still having that upper hand, still having that bit of a better chance. But meanwhile, outsiders are not leaving them behind as well. And they indeed are. They're going to leave them behind. They're going to have more pace and more better traction on the exit, as 87 now scraping wheels with just with 91 there, I think it should be. And it's going to be very close between everybody around. We saw somebody moving to the left, and I think it could be drivers coming into the pits again as it's green for one more time. It is 87.15, and it should be 9 right behind them. And on the inside, it is 91 and 75. Very, very close, not far away. Meanwhile, we're going to see who's able to attack one or the others, who's able to do better, and one better one than the other. So the outsiders, we could be seeing them move to the inside line anytime soon. Maybe not number 9, but 87 and 15 could be making their way to the inside. But I think so far they've managed to keep it on the outside. Meanwhile, we see one of those yellow cars moving to the outside, from outside to the inside there. Which of course should be Chris, I believe, trying to do what he can there in that car, keeping it with the lead, is keeping up with those faster cars at this point in time. Meanwhile, 91 and 75, a bumper to bumper there, very, very close so far. Still not many any moves, though, any maneuvers from any of those drivers. We saw some of them being made, and that was a lot of them into the wall. Many drivers involved in those incidents, but we're going to see how they're going to take it. Of course, the whole field trying to take it cautiously, trying to take it nice and smoothly so far, trying to stay calm though in this entirety of this race. At 44, of course, we are nearly at the halfway stage. Still a few laps away from that, but we're going to see what is it going to be getting at. We're going to see what it's going to be. Meanwhile, still and on the inside, 91 staying there. 91 keeping that inside. The 87 is not yet has made a move or maneuver to the inside to try and get things there, to try and get the upper hand on those inside liners, which of course inside line seems to always one or the other time be the better one, be the better option of these drivers racing. But we'll see how this goes around. We're going to see the outsider still ahead though, 91 a little bit behind those on the outside. Still the drivers, I mean, still everybody staying where they are. Nobody trying to go 3 wide, nobody trying to do something extraordinary here, but we'll see what is it going to be. Meanwhile, 87 and 15 very, very close, and very close, are bumper to each other. Meanwhile, 91 and 97 are in 75 I shall say, in their similar positions as well. Very, very close for everybody behind them, moving to the left, to the right to get it done as soon as they can, and just looking for that one opportunity which they'll get any time, and which could pretty much be the one and only opportunity for the entirety of their race to move up the grid, to move forward around, and we will see what as anybody able to do here so far. Still going how they're going though. They're on the field, still going around the field, still going how they have been though. Not much maneuvers, but the insiders have been able to have the upper end one more time. It keeps switching over the entirety of this race. Sometimes it moves to the inside and sometimes it's to the outsiders, and it is going to be one of the drivers coming out of that pit lane trying to stay away of this battle so far. But we'll see. Meanwhile, 75 on that outside goes for it. But is he going to be able to keep that, or the inside is going to be able to attack very, very soon? Meanwhile, 87 and 75 very, very close, bumper to bumper to each other, but we'll see how is it going to be, and interesting to see. Meanwhile, 75 on that inside, very close, and has moved to the inside line and has kept it so far. But again, those 87 and 15 on that outside are going to be having that and going to be taking that, in fact, that lead of this race. It keeps switching between William and Corey. We're going to see what it is going to be. Meanwhile, it's 75 and 91 still staying there, though. Still not seeing much. Meanwhile, we're seeing 75 and 91 there. Keeping it there all. They're doing what they can, and they're trying to still stay there. 9 the insiders. Inside line, having the better chance, up there, but we'll see what is it gonna be. Still staying close though. We'll see how this goes around though. Still going nice, still going very, very good. It keeps switching from inside or the outside. Everybody around just waiting for their best opportunity, waiting for their chances to really try and go for the best opportunity and the perfect move there though. And we'll see when that happens though. Some of those cars lapped are a lap behind. This is going to be very interesting to see. Many cars are now wanting to lap the car just ahead of them, but it'll be interesting to see who's able to do that and who's not. Meanwhile, again, 87 on that outside moves ahead of 75. It's very close though. 15 not doing much, so is it 91 going for that move, but the leaders of those lines are going at that. So that is still green, though, still taking it into lap 51, and it is not yet a stage break. I believe it should be maybe somewhere around 55 to lap 60 if it's still going green so far, but we'll see how it goes, though. It might be going yellow at the end of this lap, though. Yep, it's still going to continue, and it is still indeed continuing, but we're going to see. Still fewer 4 laps away. 87 still staying around to the outside. Once again, 75 on that inside. Has that move, and has that part going through. Very, very close. Look how many less cars there are on the outside. Only 5 of them. Everybody else on that inside line really trying to stay and trying to take that advantage of that inside one, but I think we'll see how it goes around. I mean, there's not many cars bunched up together though, because it's only about 5 cars on that outside and 6 on that inside, which are together and in that one pack of cars and racing so far. But it is going to be very close. Meanwhile, 69 moving to that inside, even while being on that inside line, very, very close. Meanwhile, 75 and 91 are bumper to bumper to each other, and we'll see how it is going to be. It's still staying cool, still staying far smooth so far, but we'll see. Could there be anything extraordinary? Maybe we saw a bit of action and some incidents earlier, so everybody trying to stay away for that. Meanwhile, 87th for a moment felt like he was going to go and try and make it 3 wide there, and between 15 and 91 there almost. He thought to go for in between those guys, but not so far. But we'll see how is it going to be now. Still staying cool, still staying as same as it has been for the entirety of the second stage. But we're going to see where is this going to be keep now. Meanwhile, 75 now leads it. Still leading though for a moment. He almost went center of the field in the middle of everybody trying to defend from both the outside and the inside line. But I think at the moment he knows that straying to that inside would be his way and his chance of going at it so far, as we are 3 laps more than the halfway stage of this race, of those 100 laps. The 53 we are on to. And it should be not many laps now before we are actually at the end of this second stage, which has been going nicely done as well. But we'll see how this pans out. Still very, very close between 75 and 87, still staying there, and 91 and 15 are not far away as well. I mean, towards the end could be some things that we wouldn't be expecting. Meanwhile, 87, they're very close to 91, and it could have been bad for him in one way or the other. Chris Cornett really trying to stay as calm as he can in that 87 car. So far, very interesting. It has been, and anybody that is going to try and go for those moves, we have been waiting for those. It marks lap 55 of 100 again. I think it should be just 5 more laps now, which went before it's going to be the end of this second stage, what we're going to see. And then we're going to see those final 40 laps to the end of this race. But I think so far these 55 laps have been here and there apart, a bit of a chaos, a bit of a racing and excitement all around. We're going to see one more car being lapped around. I think number 1 there, number 1 and number 2 both being involved in those incidents earlier, those car numbers of course, and we haven't seen much of them for the remainder of this race anymore. Of course, those damages aren't sometimes easy to repair, and meanwhile they're going to have to make one of their cars get out of the way. They're trying to get out of the way, of course, those lapped cars, but sometimes they could be, or maybe a reason of a problem or of a incident that we would be waiting for. Meanwhile, 75 is now losing a lot of them as he's moved to that outside, and he's losing a lot of the positions there, and he's moved far back of the grid. Meanwhile, 87 and 15 are taking it. Meanwhile, 91 has been right behind those guys, and now Chris on that outside is going around as well. We're going to see how he's going to be scraping with 91 there, trying to stay. Meanwhile, 75 has fallen right back very far as he was leading that inside line in fact for a little bit, and he's now going to have it scrape it up for with Chris Mayo on that outside in for 6th place there to try and defend. Meanwhile, William is not able to do what he would have hoped for so far in this race. It moved us to 57 and 91 now on the outside. He's going to make his own field and try and stay those guys, try and make those guys his own and try and get ahead of everybody. Of course, just staying to that inside didn't quite do much good for him, and didn't quite provide the opportunity for him. But meanwhile, the outside will be doing that, and 75 along with a few other cars moving up ahead as well. And of course, those back markers and those drivers being lapped sometimes help one or the other drivers, which we have just seen there, and we can have a look at that, and we are seeing that. Meanwhile, as some of those drivers who were far behind have been able to progress and get ahead of those around them. 87 now gets to the inside, get ahead again. 91 still keeping that outside line though. We'll see how this would be moving around as it now sees us at this moment. 87 still calmly leading though. He maybe sometimes feel the pressure of here and there losing around, but still stays the same. Still lap 50, lap 59. It happens to be now out of 160. Could be the mark of the second at the end of the second stage, but we'll see who's going to be coming out on top of that stage, though it could be very close between 91 and 87 there, but 15 is not far away as well. Meanwhile, at this moment, 15 has got to be the second driver, and the driver in second place, though, but we'll see. What is it going to be, though, for these drivers as they get to the end of this lap? And it still stays, and lap 60 begins. It's still green. It might be some lap, maybe somewhat in the 60s, the laps of this race, which is going to be getting ourselves to the end of the second stage. Still continues, though. The second stage far more than the first stage was, which was 25 laps. Then, of course, a few laps being covered. Those incidents have been around, and still stays green. Though, of course, we'll see. Sorry, not 91, but 61, which should be seen. So anywhere from 60 to 65 could be the time of it going yellow, and I think it goes yellow now. It's still staying, though. I think I saw yellow on those sideboards of the track, but still yellow's out, and yellow's out, and there it is. It in the graphic, it of course updated a little bit later, but it was out a little bit earlier, and it is going to be 87 car who's going to be coming out on top at the end of this second stage. There you go, some breathing again. I don't know what is it. I hear some video or something. Are you watching something? Is that or sometimes in the background I hear like a video. Yeah, because just in between I'm talking and then it just comes out kind of distracting. So not sure, but yeah, just trying to take it through, very, very new experience for me. As I said earlier, really over racing, especially. $60 done, the final 40 to go now.
Sorry? No, not now. So it wasn't continuously, but it was randomly, like for a few seconds, and then it'll disappear, and then for a few seconds again. I think my voice is on. Heard it. And there we go. We're on at it once again on lap 64 now, the second stage. A bit more, in fact, way more chaotic than how the first one was. And I think so far it has been very, very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how the third and final stage of this Daytona International Speedway race here, the Trucks Championship, here it goes with BMRL Network. Hope you're enjoying it though so far. We have been trying to get it as nicely as we could. Meanwhile, on lap 64 out of 100, just a little, even now less than 40 laps remain for this final stage, which we are waiting for it to go green very, very soon, and we go racing once again. Meanwhile, Chris is currently in that third place and in that second, on that inside line. Though it'll be very interesting to see. I mean, of course, many incidents, many chaotic moments, of course, pushing some drivers behind, providing the opportunity to others as well. But we'll see what is it going to be for all those obviously up ahead, but those behind having fallen behind after those incidents earlier on. And it's going to be green. It's going to be rolling green now, which would be between Chris Cornett and Jeff Peppers. It'll be very close there. Meanwhile, Sean Cross would be there as well as it goes green now. 87 of Chris Cornett on the inside. He's called off restart then. It's called it off. It's not happening the restart again. And it was green, but it's back again. Very late. Very late call there by Race Control. They're getting that. Well, they get pace car out one more time for one more lap there to try and go with these cars. And I think we were almost in there for a battle of racing and position once again, but we'll have to do it one more time, and then it should be all good. Lap 65, which it went green, but got back to yellow, and the pace car was out one more time. And I think just now a few corners and a few more miles to go before it's going to be green again, and the final 34 laps till the end of this race. And the third and final stage of this race would be beginning, and we'll be going, and whoever of course finishes to the end of it would be victorious. Meanwhile, it goes green for the second time for the third stage there as it begins. Is it going to be Chris? It's going to be Chris Cornett on the inside leading it. Meanwhile, Chris Mayo on the inside, almost already losing to that outside line there, but how is he going to be able to keep his place there? Of course, in second place on that inside line. We'll see how it goes though. Jeff
Peppers, Sean Cross, and everybody behind them trying to go as quick go smooth as they can. Meanwhile, on all those on the outside, 69 is going to be leading once again, going to get ahead. Meanwhile, Chris is going to send it there for a moment, but it's not so far. He just switched lanes from inside to the outside. Meanwhile, we're having drivers almost go very wide there. 69 and 83 moving to that inside line, trying to get that lead as 9 who is right behind them, keeps to that outside and try and defend it from Chris, and somewhat a few of the others try and defend from those guys behind as well, not try and let go of that. Of course, not everybody is going to stay to that inside, and it's going to be overtakes being done as we're seeing now. Some drivers once again forming up to there. Meanwhile, 83 it is, getting to that outside line and getting themselves established on that outside of the track, which we'll see, of course, which is probably the more or less the opportunity to overtake, to go and to try and get to the top. Meanwhile, 83 and 69 still scraping for lead, back and forth. It's one or the other. Meanwhile, 9, they're almost thought for it to try and go, switch lanes or go 3 wide, which doesn't always go the best the way around here at Daytona, but we'll see, especially in oval racing though. But we'll see how it is going to be. As far as the restart is concerned, it has been clean, safe, and smooth for everybody. They've kept it. Meanwhile, 87 moves from inside to the outside to try and have the best chance and the better chance for that lead, for that victory towards the end, of course. It's going to be now. We'll see how is it going to be panning out, and we'll get an option. We are meanwhile 4 on the inside. They're 4 and 33 on that on the inside. They're bumper to bumper as the 4 gets ahead of 69 there. 33 maintaining it very nicely as well there. Meanwhile, it's going to be 3 wide. Someone behind them has given it a go. They're almost making it go 3 wide, and they're going to go 3 wide. It was going to be 87 there. Trying to keep it clean though. Very nicely done. There is quite clean racing there, because earlier anytime we saw somebody going 3 wide, it was always caution and crashes happening and chaos building up. But so far it's been clean and nice race into it, as we are on it for one more time, and the lap after lap they are going now. Just those final moments and times in this race, we're just seeing drivers get it for a moment. I think there probably could be a chance, but once again, everybody moves back to that inside line. Of course, we have drivers 00, the leader of that outside line. In fact, it wouldn't be 00. I think it might be another number, but there we go. As Chris on that inside would be moving forward a little bit and a little bit quicker. Meanwhile, one of them on the inside, number 4, still thinking for an outside line. No, still trying to go for it. Still trying to make an opportunity, trying to make something out of nothing at this point in this race for himself and for everybody behind as well. Of course, with 2 fields. One on the outside and on the inside. There's always chances for not only you, but everybody behind you as well. Of course, it is almost like whichever lane is leading could be the one leading everybody behind them as well. But it'll be very, very close to see how this goes around. Of course, lap 70, which it marks 71 the next time by. At this time, we'll be going around. And out of 100 now. Not many laps before it is going to be the end of the race. It is going to be the end of this race. But I think still many laps to the end, of course. It's the final stage, which should be the exciting and fantastic one. I think by lap 85 to 90, upwards, lap 85 to 90 would be chaotic. And the chaos would be beginning the fight for victory. We could be seeing those more and more, and those movements and moves being made, the mind games the drivers that are playing with everybody around them, and maybe sometimes with their own team players as well. But of course, at the end of the day, they're there to win, and 9 and 4 almost touched there. Had that been a contact, that would have ended horribly wrong. But we'll see how is it going to be going around. So far, it has been very nicely done. for timing at this moment. They're doing it very nice. Chris Cornett still leads it, still keeps his first place to himself so far. Nobody's been able to challenge him. Nobody's been able to really get closer. Of course, everybody is close, but nobody's been able to be there. In fact, it is not 87. It is number 33 leading at this point. Not sure from where he came, though. We have been looking at 87 leading for the entirety of this race, and it has been 33 now at the top and ahead of everyone, really giving them a new benchmark, giving them a new challenge to try and see if they're able to challenge him, if they're able to do something against him. We're gonna wait and see to see where it's gonna be for everybody, as it's now lap 73 out of 100, and I think it's gonna be very interesting, very, very close for all of these drivers all around. It's been once again almost similar lap after lap, but we'll see how it goes around. Meanwhile, it's going to be the inside of Chris, who was going to try and defend on 69 there, who was, of course, on the outside. He's been able to defend it, and he's been able to keep it there, and I think that was a little bit of a chance. He moved from inside to the outside to try and defend from the driver behind and not lose his place and position to him. It's still going to be scraping, still going to be cool, close, very close, and wheel-to-wheel action, which we're going to see between those. And meanwhile, Chris has become the leader, and we see cars going off, and that is going to be caution already going on as we see cars crashing around. Meanwhile, the caution and the action and the action of and the excitement of those final few laps has already begun. I was calling it anything after 80 laps, and it is now already happened on lap 74. We'll see how it goes and how it happens all around. It is yellows all around. We're waiting to see the replays of what happened there. I'm sure we'll be getting those very, very soon. But this was another incident, the third now, and the first one in the third and final stage of this race. Lap 75 now. I wonder if it's going to be paused or it's going to be keeping those counting those laps though so far in this race. Some of the drivers trying to pit, of course. I think some of these of course will have to pit one time a mandatory pit stop, which obviously was in the Xfinity series. Not sure if it's going to be in the trucks as well, but I think it should be similar rules that one pit stop has to be made within that final stage in under green flag. So we'll see how many of them jump into that pit. Everybody. And in fact, it is everybody except for one car behind that pace car. Nobody's waiting to waste any time trying to get into the pits and get that fuel, of course. If they're not going to get those tires, they would need that extra fuel. Not extra, but at least as much as they need it. They would definitely be wanting to have that much fuel. And any extra repairs that they need to do. Of course, a big rack has been made, and it would be damaged for a lot of those drivers. We haven't been able to see the replay yet, but I'm sure it should be anytime soon that we see the replay and the action of what happened at that time of the chaos and caution, which of course, which chaos and the problems that happened and which caused this. Once again, hope you're enjoying this amazing trucks race, though, as we are, of course, now on lap 76 out of 100, just towards those in the final stage, and waiting to go green one more time and go racing once again at this circuit and go at it to see the action-packed racing which we've seen all around and all race long. And we see some drivers pit earlier. Some of them are going to pit later, of course. Maybe trying to not pit with all of them at that exact same time. So they're really one of them pitting earlier and some of them later from one or the other drivers. But we'll see how this pans out, which should be lap 78 then. And I think it could be lap 78 or 79 restart, which we'll see when does the pace car go back in. It all depends on the race control, though, but we'll see when do they let these drivers go free and race at it once again. Still staying out, still staying there, of course, as we're on that same lap. So we'll see what happens when we are one more time around here on lap 78. But we'll see what this happens. Of course, I think something like this happening towards the very end of the lap, sometimes when it's about 3 laps remaining, if that happens one more time, and then of course it goes green and it happens again, and then it just restarts from 3 laps once again, and we'll see how this will be getting on with this one, as we are yet to see the green flag and get this rolling start. These cars rolling once again for the action-packed racing, which we are just waiting moments away for it to go green. And it does go green now, which is going to be fantastic, and it's going to be 78 beginning, and for it to be going green. Meanwhile, we'll see a lot of the drivers are getting out of this race. Meanwhile, James Tinder has been at the top, and he's going to be at the top of this field, ahead of everybody on that inside line. Meanwhile, Chris Mayer right behind him as well. A lot of the drivers that were at the front of the field early on in the race have been out of this race. So we'll see what is anybody around to do. Meanwhile, 87 hasn't been any newer to all of these guys. So he's been able to do what he can, and he's been able to keep it all along. Meanwhile, they're going to be fighting it. Will, very, very good. It's 3 white now. Is it going to be any chaos? Anybody of some of them would have to back out, and it's going to be 420 having to back out. Meanwhile, Chris Mayo on that inside line keeps it, and all those on the outside very, very close as well. Ooh, that was nice, smart movements from 87 and Corey there, number 9 as well, doing a very nicely job trying to stay away from Dustin Hardy there or something, or I believe it was something else. It showed, of course, in that graphic and that overlay which we are seeing, as we are going to have 87 still lead it. Meanwhile, the 33 of Dustin Hardy is also there on the outside, and he's definitely having a very better race here in with the trucks than he did with Xfinity. And definitely he must be enjoying this one. Meanwhile, it's very, very close now, 87 and 33. One more time. It'll be very interesting. And I think well, Chris and the 69 are still staying very, very close. Everybody, I think the whole field is pretty much bunched up, and it's going all good and very nicely indeed so far. That was a nice little move from everybody behind, trying to switch lanes and change lanes there, which could have been horrible, I think, in one way or the other. It would have been interesting to see how this was going to be, but it could have been very close, and just one misjudgment could do something could do one thing which we've seen throughout the whole race. Some chaotic moments, some moments that shouldn't have been there, and that have to be happening. Meanwhile, 33 now ahead of everybody and takes the lead of this race so far. Meanwhile, 9 and 56 very, very close to each other as well. But 87 and 33 are glued to each other and are really, really close and are fighting for that final moments and for those final few starting positions or the top positions. And I think you can't bet on anybody else but Chris Cornett could well be having the chance and could well be one of those and the finishing inside the top 3. We'll see how it goes though, but we'll be seeing how this all around goes for this remaining laps. Now 20 laps to go. Now only 20 laps in this race remain. Meanwhile, 9 ahead of 69. It'll be very, very close. Now we're only given on the countdown to the end of the race, to the very, very end of this race here with the trucks there before we are back for another race. Meanwhile, there we go. The pit stops that these drivers have to make while the green is on. They will have to make, though, which were the mandatory ones. Maybe some of them might have done so in this final stage earlier on. But those who haven't, they will have to do it this time around. And of course, we saw some cars going into the pit lane as 33 still at the top, not giving any chance or any opportunity for Chris Cornett to try and do much, as Dustin Hardy is doing his all. He's going to try and keep doing what he's been doing and keep it there so far. He's been able to do that. It's very, very nice, though, on that inside line. Still very, very close. Still very nicely done. And he's keeping it there. He's going all around. And he's so far doing it very, very nicely to try and defend and keep his position up to nobody but himself. But meanwhile, all those on the outside could well be having a chance. Is it 56? It might be somebody else as well. But it is very, very close so far. Again, it's interesting to see. Nobody is yet sure who's going to be coming out on top. Meanwhile, 56 is going at it, and all those behind as well try and attack. Meanwhile, 69 could be trying and giving an attack to 56 there, who's just on the outside, and could there be a chaotic moment there? They almost touched bumpers there, I believe. 69, 56, that was very, very close between the two, and had there been just one judgment error, it could have ended up very, very wrong, and then it did. And we've seen how wrong it goes for everybody if they make a mistake or not just misjudge. Meanwhile, 56 on the outside, just hanging it around, though. Still going very strong with those on the outside, and he's in fact ahead now of that outside. He's giving it very close, and they've moved to the inside line now. 59, 56, and 69, along with 21 there. It keeps switching, and it is going to be switching like that to the end of the race. This is some great X-Impact racing that we are seeing. Meanwhile, somebody who's probably going to have to get out of the way. He's going to be that blue car on the outside, which is a lapped car, so that doesn't have to do much with these guys racing. .56, still keeping it, still having it to himself, still not giving anybody the chance, but anybody around the outside could well be having it, and it'll be none other than Dustin Hardy giving it a go around the outside. He's going to quickly move to the inside to keep it to himself, and I think, and anybody who wonders what is that outside line is used for, that is exactly what it's used for. But Dustin Hardy gets back to the outside once again. He doesn't quite think about it much. Of course, he just moves back to the outside, trying to think, because he might have known that 87 would have had a better chance and better maybe pace there. Try and go, as meanwhile it's going to be a yellow, and this is more chaotic moments and actions there. There's something more, and more has happened in this race. This is more and more chaotic moments, just like the Xfinity last night. Towards the very end of the race, this is happening once again, and we'll see what happened there. Oh, that was one of the cars. Really, maybe would have just bumped from the outside, from everyone behind, or something up in there. As that action, it could have been interesting to see. As that one of them going into the wall, getting back out on the circuit, it causes more and more chaotic action. With just 14 laps to the end to go, the final moments, and that was 75 going backwards on the circuit there. Yet to see completely what happened though, but oh, that was tapped 420. So 75 was tapped from 420, and he went backwards on that uphill. And of course, him coming back might have tapped others, and that exactly what happened. Dustin Hardy, after having such a fantastic race so far in this final stage, is going to come back at him and backfire really, and for everybody around as well. And that would be more time under the yellow, the pace car, and I think 75 might have disappeared out of the session after much damage there, but we'll be surprised to see if they're able to get back out on and be recovering from that damage that they must have sustained after such a big crash and a wreck into the wall. And we're going to see the drivers now coming into pits. Those who might have not pitted, or of course all of those involved, would be looking to just try and not get involved. I think we'll see how it goes, but try and get involved there. Sure, we had replays of this wreck and this chaos, of course, unfortunately didn't get any of the one earlier, which of course was because of some difficulties, but we are on it once again. They should be very, very interesting with 13 laps to go with the pace car now at it. Try and get the laps as quickly as they can get past it. Of course, many of the drivers getting out of this race. Meanwhile, Jeff Peppers at the top with everybody behind him all around this race. And we'll see how long this is going to be going and how good this will be looking towards the end of this race. Hope you're enjoying this great race here at Daytona, with the trucks providing a lot more action than Xfinity did, but I think both having their own charm and their own delightful moments in their own. And we'll see what more is to come to our way as we move to the very end of this race in just about 13 laps time. Now that mark goes a bit down, remaining from lap 13. It goes to lap 12 laps now remaining. A lot of the drivers in the pits trying to repair out their damage. Meanwhile, 23 cars, it seems to be still in the race. Meanwhile, Rob Denton and Cameron Welsh the drivers out of this race. Of course, many wrecks, many drivers binning in the wall, maybe being their own mistake or not their own, but We'll see how this goes. Could this be the lap win when it all goes green and we get the racing action that we've been waiting for? The final 10 laps to the end would be really, really exciting. Of course, it would be 12, but if it goes all this lap around and under the pace car as well, it'll just get that one lap out of it. But we'll see for how long we'll be able to go, though, while these drivers trying to stay there, trying to stay in their own lanes, trying to stay as calm as they can. But we will see how cool this is going to be. And there comes the base car into the pits, and that's going to allow all these drivers get back to racing, get back to the foot to the floor while it goes green, and it's going to be 12 laps to the end as it's going to become 12, of course, not going to cast in. It's going to become 11 as they get across that line. So it's going to be 11 laps to the end of this race and to the end of the Grand Prix, and I think this is now going to be all give or take for all these drivers. Anything they do in these exciting ending final laps could be their final moments, and pretty much could be deciding factor of the finishing order of this race. But we'll be waiting to see what happens and what is it going to be happening to the end. Meanwhile, 87 on the outside, keeping the lead, staying ahead. 69 on the inside. That was very close there for a moment. Both of them might have almost touched there, but this was really close. Still keeping it smooth, keeping it close though. But we'll see. How is this going to be happening? How is this going to be moving around as it's very, very close still, as that makes it now 10 laps to the end. Final countdown of 10 to 0 begins, and we'll see what is it going to be. Meanwhile, 87 still keeping it very, very cool. Chris Cornett, I would say some of those drivers at the top, pretty much all of those drivers that were at the top at the start of the race in that first stage, having those wrecks, having those moments, getting out of those, getting out of the configuration. It has to be Chris Cornett and 69, which is going to be, of course, your driver on that inside line, which is we're going to see. And at the moment, Chris still getting that 69. Of course, Jeff Peppers has kept it very nicely done, and I think Jeff Pepper is the only driver of those three teammates keeping it at the top of Sean Cross and Tyler Jenkins, and both of them not being there anywhere closer to the top of the field. And we'll see what is it gonna be now. It's as we are waiting for those drivers. Some of them already in the pits, many of them out. All of them, many of them out. So some of them out of the cars, some of them still staying in those pits. Staying in the pits in their cars. But we'll see what is it gonna be. When all these drivers take the checkered flag, when they get to the finish line, it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Meanwhile, 69 for a moment thought, Jeff Peppers for a moment thought to move to the inside or to the outside to try and get himself a better chance of an overtake, better chance of an position make himself go up a position. But we'll see what is it going to be now. The final 8 laps now remain, which is going to be coming. Is that they lapping a car out there? They definitely have to get him out of the way and try and see what happens. Meanwhile, 9 on the inside line. We saw 87 switch to the outside. 9 on the inside, going to go ahead. But we'll see what is it going to be, though. It's going to be still very, very close. I think it has been very equal, almost 87 outside and the inside line with the trucks here at Daytona. But we will see. Is it going to be equal, of course, to the line? Who's going to be coming out at the top? As they've still got about 7 laps of the circuit to go around, and they've got to be going many time around this circuit, as many as 7 before it is going to be the end of this race. And I think we will see who's going to be coming out victorious. It's still, nobody could tell who's going to come out on top. Still keeps sitting as 9 is on it. He's on that inside line. He's keeping it. He's trying to keep it there, though. He's giving it his all, trying to keep his lead to himself. Meanwhile, 15 has been moving up there as well, as 87 and 69 moving to that outside line. Haven't been the best for themselves, though, as Adam Gardner, 56, a little bit behind as well. Meanwhile, the inside line doing its job, doing its command, and thing it's supposed to do. And of course, but I think all those on the outside trying their best, since they've got no opportunity and no other chance, then stay to that outside line to try and overtake those on the inside, to try and overtake those sitting there, which of course, I think there's no other option rather than have a go on the outside line. Meanwhile, which might just be coming alive and coming in their own favor. 87 Chris, which is going to be Chris Cornett still saying we moves to the inside line very quickly to try and defend. Meanwhile, 69 now, which is Jeff Peppers on the outside, very, very close between all of those drivers now as they're going to get these laps. Now, final 5, 95 done. Final 5 to make it 100 here at Daytona. It's still undecided, and not yet. We are having a winner who's going to be winning out here on top, here at this circuit. It's been all racing all around, back and forth, so positions switching, and we will see who's going to be making it the best. Meanwhile, number 9 is not been able to stay far away as well. Corey not been able to stay far away as well. We'll see how it's going to be. It's Chris Cornett, Corey, and then it's Jeff Peppers in third. Adam Gardner completing the top 4 of this race so far, but we will see who is it going to be coming out at the top of this race at the end of it. Meanwhile, when we have no more races no more laps remaining, I think even the last final corner here at Daytona could change the results and could change the outcome of this race. But we will see how is it going to be. So even if you're leading at this point of this point of the race, doesn't always mean that you'll be victorious. As Chris Corn is going to try everything to defend. Meanwhile, we have cars disappearing here for a moment. Meanwhile, they get back once again, and we'll be back with the moments of the race. Meanwhile, we have the overlays disappear and no information of what's going on in this race so far, but we definitely have the action racing, and we definitely don't complain about that. We got to be getting the most out of it, and we surely will be. Meanwhile, 87 of Jeff Pepper still keeping it there, and keeping it, sorry, not Jeff Pepper, it is Chris Cornett indeed, and he's keeping it at the top. He's still making others give a hard time to the other drivers. Meanwhile, 15 is going to be Austin Hund around the outside of him on the outside line, still keeping it there and trying to give him a hard time there. Meanwhile, he was nowhere inside that for the first 4 leaders of first 2 cars of those grid, I think. But now only 2 more laps to go. So next time around, it is going to be the white flags, and we will see what is it going to be happening. Meanwhile, 87 still staying there. Chris Cornett just still going through the circuit. Meanwhile, it's very, very close. I think I won't be surprised if there is a wreck, somebody wrecks one or the other at this very ending moments of this race, though, with only 2 laps now remain as they just make their way past the finish line now, which is going to be now 1 lap, and it's going to be the final lap now of this race, final lap of the race now happening. It all comes down to this. Meanwhile, Austin Hund is leading it so far, but is he going to be able to get it out on top? Is he going to be able to get it, get himself victorious, or is it going to be Chris Cornett who's going to come out on top, or anybody else behind? And meanwhile, there's a crash. It's going to be number 9 into the wall, but it's the final lap. It is going to be the it of this race. Meanwhile, Austin Hund leads it on that inside. He's going to keep it, and as it looks like he might just be victorious here at Daytona. Still a few more corners before it's the end of the race, and Austin Hund has been tagged, and it is going to be even more fun. And it was, I think, the number 4 car coming now victorious, and it'll be interesting to see who won, though. It was very, very close to the end. It might have been number 4. Some exciting, and especially to the end. Everybody fighting for their own positions. Some people have put others in the wall, and some have done it to themselves. And that is going to get to call time to this amazing trucks race here at Daytona. And that is it. And 87, Chris Cornett takes victory here at Daytona, and that is going to call time to an amazing race after all those exciting moments, after all those amazing chaotic wrecks and some moments in this race. In the end, I thought it was going to be number 4 winning up at the end, but it was, of course, 87, Chris Cornett at the top. And then came 4 and 69, which was Jeff Peppers, of course, to the end. And this was very, very close. And you can see how close this was and how close of a margin this was for victory. And that is some exceptional racing and fantastic job done by all of our drivers there. Sure. Oh, good. I mean, finally, 100 laps done. I think might have to move ourselves into the interview room. And we have Jeff Peppers, our man, car number 4. Very, very close to victory there, but just snapped from you in the end there for you.
Yeah, man, it was calamity. Well, it was calamity there on that last lap there. But that is Daytona to a T. That is super speedway racing. You're lucky to finish it sometimes, and then you're even luckier when you have a finish like we had tonight to be up there fighting possibly less than tenths of a second to win the race. It's a good race to start the season off with, that is for sure.
So tell me, like, what is really going through your minds there racing, trying to stay away from the chaos? Of course, at the end we saw knocking a lot of the drivers in the end, trying to not be one of those, and then of course finish, not only try and finish, but finish at the top as well. So it must be going a lot there at one moment in time in the race.
Yeah, it's almost like you get, I don't want to say tunnel vision, but you just get focused out your windshield. And not only do you have to watch where you're at, you have to, keep your eyes forward and see if you can see runs develop, and you can see where, you might be able to put your truck in a hole. And sometimes by the time you get your truck up there, that hole gets filled and calamity happens. But it's one of those things, you just hold on tight. You make sure your seatbelts are tight, and you just go for it and hope it works. It's really what it all boils down to. But it's a lot of keeping your truck where you want it, and then making sure your truck goes where you need it to go. And hopefully you get out in front of everybody.
Fantastic. It was a great race from you tonight, and that'll be it.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for putting this on, and see y'all next week.
Certainly can't wait to catch you.
All right. Do you want me to drag them up? Let me see if I can. I should be able to. I'm going to mute myself so y'all don't hear me. I'll bring Dustin up first.
And there it is, Dustin the man. You two very close, almost, in fact, a photo finish, the top three in the end. Just far away, inches away from that line to really have you finish P1 there.
Yeah, I really thought I had it until it popped up and said 2. I didn't even realize he was outside of me. I saw Peppers at my right rear quarter, and I didn't know we were 3 wide. So I really thought I had it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I in fact thought you had it, but Chris really on that outside, he did not back out at all. He wasn't looking to back out. Everybody just committed to get to that line first.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got Austin there. He went high. I guess to try to block the high Chris's run coming off of 4, and as soon as he did, I went below him and tried to hold the yellow. And when he came back down, I was already there and turned him. So I hate that happened, but I hate to say I'll take a second, but I mean, I was driving a wounded truck ever since that wreck on lap 34 when one of those cars spinning hit the right front and damaged the wheel. So I was driving with the wheel cocked at like a 15-degree angle for the last 66 laps. So I don't want to ever take a second, but I suppose I'll take it.
I mean, especially with all those wrecks we saw, drivers going into the walls and damaging their cars and stuff. Still happy to finish. I mean, in the end, you did get a finish despite having some damage. So that is kudos to you. And congratulations for second place.
Yes, sir. No, I hope everybody enjoyed it. And if you don't mind, I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, CircleBDiecast.com. Holidays are quickly approaching. They've got Black Friday sales going on, so go to CircleBDiecast.com, get whatever you want. Use my code, it's TVR20, and get discounted shipping on everything they got. Go check them out.
Cool.
All right. I appreciate it, fellas.
Nice to have you. Thank you so much. And there we have Chris Cornett, winner of the night here at Daytona. Chris, how does it feel? Very close. I think all the other 2 around you a bit gutsy to not get the victory, and you were the one coming out on top from those two guys. It must be a great feeling.
Yeah, it is a true good feeling because coming off 4 when I was up high all by myself, I was like, yeah, it's over. I'm not gonna get it. And all of a sudden, I saw them spinning, and I was like, I got a shot. And then I looked to my left and saw us 3 wide. I was like, it's gonna be really close. And just speechless. It's honestly just thought I gave it up there at the end, and just never give up. Honestly.
Yeah, in the end, it definitely does. I mean, you sure could be giving up in that car, but others around making mistakes could be a door-opening opportunity for not only a podium finish, but just like in your case, getting at the top of it.
Yeah, 100%. Just man, that's crazy. That's probably one of the closest finishes I've had on here. So
Amazing. Any track now you're looking specifically going into the season specifically, something that you would be looking forward to?
Martinsville and some road courses, pretty decent. Those normally I'm pretty good at restrictor plays. Just 9 times out of 10 they never come out on top in my favor. Luckily this one did. Very very close finish, but I mean the lucky one to get on top. So I know I raced. Just glad to get wide open throttle, second win in a row here, 2 nights in a row.
Amazing job done. And anybody you want to shout out before we let you go?
Just want to thank my teammates, Dustin Hardy and Jamie. Thank you, Dustin, for making my truck paint scheme. Wide open throttle for letting me race in the truck series too. BMRL for allowing me to run in here, and thank y'all for putting on a great stream. And thank you to the fans who ever watched, and we'll try to go next week and get another good finish.
Fantastic. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your race winner, Chris Cornett. So now that concludes the post-race interviews and an amazing, great race here at Daytona within the Trucks Series. Should be great. Well, can't wait to catch you next time around. As great of a race this was, I'm sure it is going to be excitement all around. Everybody watching and all those drivers racing as well. It should be nothing less than a blockbuster next time around as well. And now that is continuing at BMRL Network. It was a fantastic race here we did at Daytona. And it was myself, Zebby. Hope you enjoyed all the streaming, all the commentary, and the action-packed racing. And we will be out in a few seconds' time and catch you around next